Good evening. Thank you all very much for being with us tonight. My name is Dr. Carol Clyde Gallagher, and I am the coordinator of the Organizational Leadership Program here at Cottey. And I just want to thank you all very much for being here tonight. One of the parts of our program is that students do a public talk. Public speaking is the #1 fear of Americans. They are more afraid of speaking in public than getting a root canal or dying. So we are glad that you are here tonight to help them with this. In our organizational leadership program, we spend a lot of time, especially the first day of class, talking about expectations. Talking about how expectations can sometimes get us in trouble. Think back to those days in high school when your parents got really upset with you for whatever reason. Hopefully it wasn't a bad reason. They got really upset with you for some reason, and maybe or maybe not they had told you what that reason was in advance. Maybe they didn't tell you what time they expected you to be home, so you came home at a time you thought was reasonable, and in their mind it was maybe not quite so much. So we spend a lot of time talking about expectations, and part of me wishes that every relationship we had spent time talking about expectations. Part of that also is talking about expectations in terms of leadership and thinking about what those expectations are. One of the first things we talk about, again, in our classroom is some of the things that students are expected to do. They're expected to practice authenticity. They're expected to practice vulnerability. They're expected to be prepared to fail. They're expected to figure out how to get past that failure, because the failures are what ultimately makes us the leaders that we're meant to be. So with that, I am going to thank you again, all of you, for being here, and move right into the first of our 2 talks tonight, which is Grace Diaz.
Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So my name is Grace, and today I'll be talking about servant leadership and the hidden figures of Cottey College. So I'm going to start with a narrative. I'm going to start or take you all in a time of my middle school years. That is basically before 2011. I know, a long time ago, I think. And I'm going to take you all on a field. So here we are in this field. I'm running back and forth. We're all running back and forth because there's a soccer ball. We're dribbling the ball and we're just trying to get to the goal and trying to make a score. And so, all our minds is basically on that game. And that's how it was for me in middle school and with my friends. Is that my friends and I, we were so focused on playing this game that there were no pauses. We just wanted to make scores, and this was street soccer, so there are no rules. It was a heck of a lot of fun. So here we are, and we play for like an hour and another, because we're just not tired. But here comes Pablo with a water carrier, just like the one you see up here. And he comes, and he's like just going with a water carrier, and he brings it on and puts it on top of the bench. And all of a sudden, we all see Pablo. And the thing is that we stop, not because Pablo's bringing us water, it's because there's something special about Pablo. So we all go, we run towards Pablo, and he tells us like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And he's a custodian, and he's also from Mexico, so he'll speak to us in Spanish, and ¿cómo estás? And he'll just ask us questions. And we're like, oh, what's up, Pablo? Like, how are you doing? And that kind of thing. And he's like, hey, do you guys want water? I brought you guys water, and this and that. And the thing about Pablo is that he's always there to give us his service. And not only would he bring us water, he will also talk to young ladies. And something that I remembered from him was, hey, you're someone special, know your value. Do not forget about that, especially when you're making hard decisions. You're gonna need to know what your values are. And so, what your value is. And so, that's something that I remember from Pablo, was that kind of service of word and how he was always there. And that's how I was first introduced about servant leadership. So this is a topic, as I said before, that I will speak on. And I want to do this presentation as some sort of a game. So I will give you 3 clues on who these hidden figures are. Hidden figures in Cottey College are. Y'all with me? Okay. So the first hint is that servant leaders are helpful. And what does helpful mean? It means that they are people who will have skills and will want to use those skills to help others. There will also be they'll be there because they're attentive. They want to listen to your stories. They're also there to provide the things that you need. There is a story when I did an interview, or when I interviewed somebody, they said that when they came back from winter break or from a holiday break, they came a little early, 2 days or a couple of days, and what happened was that they were there and their heater wasn't working, and when all of a sudden they started hearing a knock on their door, and they're like, wait, who's here? And because no one's supposed to be here. Well, it was those people that came, and they, with their skills, they helped with fix the heater, and they just pretty much that service kept them inside their hearts. So the second tip is that servant leaders are like stewards. What does that mean? Is that some leadership scholars have said that stewardship is a place where people can build that area of trust, where people can trust each other. And that's what some of the leaders or the hidden figures here at Cottey do, is that they try to make that space where students are able to speak up, because sometimes we're afraid to speak up of what's going on in our lives. So sometimes some of these hidden figures will say something like, hey Grace, or hey Celica, or hey Abigail, how are you? Sometimes they'll say, like, how's school going? Oh, if they know you very well, they'll ask you something personal, what you're going through. So the third hint here is that they are committed to the well-being of Cottey. So that means that they want to know that everything is going okay, because they know that if one student or one area is going bad, then that means that another area is also going to be affected by it. So they're there to be attentive. They are there to keep asking you. They're giving you some kind of they're with you to give a development plan in a way. So before I start the video, I did an interview with a few students, or a number of students actually, and I asked them, what does servant leadership mean to you? And I asked them, and they would give me the definition of what servant leadership is. Also, they provided the answer that you all are wondering, is who are these hidden figures? That's what this video is going to present you. And so here in this video, you'll hear the answers, but I just want you to know that the answers that are in here are not limited to those people. They've also mentioned other professors, or they've also mentioned other faculty and staff. But this video you'll see the servant leadership in action, and how servant leadership means for students. Technical difficulties.
Servant leadership for me is the form of serving other people, serving a group of people either in your school, your friends, or at home or the community.
And when you first think about it, you think leadership is, you're being the leader, but sometimes it's more than that.
It's like serving others as they lead. Know how to work as a team to make it work as
effectively.
They view their role not as being limited to title and defined by title, but rather how they interact and serve their stakeholders and the members of their organization.
They literally go the extra mile to put the people around them back in shape.
Having those people to support us is a very positive thing.
They definitely, are the glue of Cottey. Like, we couldn't continue day-to-day services without their help.
I do believe we have servant leaders in the various areas of the faculty and staff at Cottey, but oftentimes we don't spot them because they're not on the spotlight.
Especially, physical plant, because I feel like they don't get enough appreciation for what they do, especially, when they'll come in at all hours of the night to fix problems like heaters.
They just go above and beyond, and they're I feel like they know when you're not in a good mood, and they do their best to lift you up, lift your spirits up.
The kitchen staff, they will make sure there's extra silverware, the salad bars restocked, make sure the food is prepped and ready for the students and the professors, whoever's coming in to eat.
It's always there to provide the best food that us as students need. They're always there to ask if there's anything wrong with the food, if we feel like there's something they need to fix.
Then the cooks teach us a lot of things. I know I've learned a lot of cooking skills that I knew when I started college, but now I know a lot more than I actually ever thought I would know.
I would have to say that our housekeepers, the members of physical plant, and everyone that work towards student success.
It makes the job of being a student a lot easier and a lot more of a positive experience, I guess, because these are things that we might have to do by ourselves, but if we did, it would be very overwhelming.
If I can make somebody happy, make their day, no matter what, and make them feel better about themselves, all the better. That makes me feel good.
You don't want to be detrimental, to the overall goals of the, in this case, the college, and of the students, their goal. You want to participate in it, you want to assist it, you want to try to, encourage and help everyone achieve that.
It's important, especially, young girls like yourselves need a little guidance, and some don't have that in the home, so I'm really welcome to help with that situation here.
I try to help them all, so I hope I've helped you. I'd always find you on the couch in the morning, so. Yeah.
Well, as you saw this slide, I wanted to take this time to recognize the servant leaders for the Hidden Figures here at Cottey College, and also for the faculty and staff for their service. So we can just give a round of applause for them. This is a way of saying thank you. And now, in terms of how this is helping in my leadership development, well, I want to begin first with saying that when I was a child, I thought like a child, meaning that I observed the peers around me and how they would be and how that I learned from them. Then, in my college experience, I knew I had to learn from different people. So, clearly, the people that I interviewed, they have different backgrounds than I do. Something that they helped me or that they taught me was to be helpful. Just don't ask questions, be helpful. 2 is like the second hint said, to be more of a steward. Practice stewardship. You build that area of trust. Then also the third part is being committed. committed to your friends, to your peers, to faculty, and basically to the Cottey community. Then, how I'm going to take this? Well, something that I need practice on is being committed. And something that I've learned from every single person that I've interviewed was that you have to think about the other person. Put the other person first before their own. It's about being selfless. And that's something that I want to take away from this experience. Now, something that I want you all to take away from this slideshow is for you all to recognize who's been there for you and to, take a moment to thank them for especially the hidden figures of Cottey College, because they've done a lot for this community. So thank you all, and thank you.
Amin, Kate Indigenous, Makwatodam Mindao, Anishinaabe Undunchiba. Hello, my name is Catherine, and I'm part of the Bear Clan, and I belong to the Anishinaabe community, or tribe. So that was a formal Ojibwe greeting. As you all can obviously tell, I'm an organizational leadership major, and one of the requirements of senior organizational leadership majors is to come and share our personal leadership journey alongside our leadership studies and our capstone project. And I consider that a privilege more than a requirement. So, without further ado, let's get real. As I mentioned, I'm part of the Ojibwe tribe of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And even though I didn't grow up on the reservation, I have a very deep passion for my culture, and I always had this admiration for my family and stayed connected with them. Growing up, I always admired how close my dad's family was. They connected each other, and they really made each other feel like they belonged and empowered one another. And so, a couple years into my leadership studies, I realized that this connectedness, this empowerment, wasn't unique to my family, but rather my entire tribe, and many tribes, in fact. Then I was able to take the leadership and culture class, and during that I was able to study a culture of my choosing. I'm sure you can guess which one I chose. But I devoured literature, and I spoke to my elders, and I was able to interview two incredible tribal women leaders who sit on our tribe's board of directors. And one of the things that I found was that while many Western cultures subscribe to this positional leadership model, tribal leadership is incredibly different. So the idea is that everyone is a leader, right? Everyone. Sure, we have our chief and our board of directors, and that's great. You know, titles are fine, but everyone has special skills. Everyone has some sort of ability that says, yes, that's who I am, and I can do this, and I have something useful to contribute. So when that time comes for that skill that you possess to be useful, you step up, right? And you lead. And then when it's your time to step back, when it's become slightly less useful, or someone else may have a better handle on things, you step back and allow them to step forward and lead. And then you support them, right? So this idea of stepping up and stepping back, it engages and supports the entire community, not just a few. And it allows people to build relationships and kind of prevent burnout, because we all know that that can be an issue. And I'm sure you're thinking, wait a second, what? This is a crazy idea. Let me back up and put this in perspective. Growing up, I was always very, very independent, fiercely independent, and I thought I was the best and the smartest, and I could do anything better than anyone, right? Sorry, Mom. But I really did do everything. I did so many clubs and, you know, dual enrollment, valedictorian, the works, right? But I didn't do the whole people thing. I didn't like group projects, and I had this I can just do it better myself attitude, which I'm sure we've all felt that way at some point, but then I was able to take the leader within. And things got real really fast, right? I realized that I couldn't do it all, and I certainly couldn't do it all by myself. It just doesn't work that way. So fast forward to my sophomore year. Things were a little different, right? I went from the top of the world to falling flat on my face, literally. I was struggling then with an undiagnosed heart condition, and it caused me to spontaneously pass out, like a lot. Needless to say, it wasn't good, and I was in a wheelchair for a while. But I felt like I couldn't do anything on my own, and I hated that feeling. I hated being vulnerable and having to ask for help. I know, what would people think? I was actually human. I wanted to give up. But my friends and family and professors had a different plan for me. And they kept me going until I could stand on my own 2 feet. Aside from now, obviously. But looking back, this was a turning point, or as we like to say in leadership, a crucible moment. And I think this was probably when I realized the value of finding my people, right, my tribe. I had to push through that fear of vulnerability and recognize my limits and really reach out to other people and allow them to take their place in my life as leaders. But these weren't just any people, right? These are the people who truly cared, who I spent time with and intentionally built meaningful relationships with, and they showed up for me. So I had to recognize that it was my time to step back and their time to step forward. With these lessons in mind, I spent multiple semesters working on leadership development plans. And I focused on vulnerability and getting out of my comfort zone, on knowing my limits and knowing when to say no and how often, and just reaching out in general. Now, of course, progress doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in a semester even, maybe. But it's a lifelong journey, and I'm proud of how far I've come. So fast forward to this semester, I was given the opportunity to design my capstone to focus on community leadership. So in conjunction with the Nevada Chamber of Commerce, I've been able to help develop Leadership Vernon County, which is a leadership development program for building community, reaching out, and taking leadership positions based on what you have to offer. In developing this, I found some really neat ideas. So, community leadership is intended to create a cohesive, sustainable local environment, which involves many, so the idea of community, to implement some positive change. And I think what's really neat about leadership is that it spreads, right? I like to think of leadership as contagious. So when we're developing these strong and passionate leaders in a cohort where you're intentionally growing them together, they can then go back out to their personal tribes and share what they've got, what they've learned, and encourage them to step up and lead. And then they can encourage their tribes, and so on and so forth. And it just creates this incredible movement, right? So now it's your turn. You didn't think you'd get through this entire talk without being involved, right? So I want you to take a good hard look at your lives. And I want you to raise your hand if any of these statements or questions sound familiar. Do you feel overwhelmed? Yeah, I see all of you, right? Do you feel isolated maybe? Just a little bit? Okay, I see a few of you. Are you in charge of way too much or feel like everyone has something they want from you? Yeah, me too. So consider those in your life though. Not just in the audience, with your friends, but think of those friends and family members, maybe co-workers or professors and mentors. Who is in your life, right? Who can you truly count on when times get tough? And maybe they're just sitting there with you at dinner and listening to you, but who can you share that burden with? Those people that you're thinking of right now, they're part of your tribe. So I want you to think of one of those people, just one. And this week, I want you to show them a little bit of appreciation, because that can be kind of hard sometimes to be part of someone's tribe, to depend on someone else, right? So I want you to turn to your neighbor right now, and I want you to share one way that you can show your appreciation to that one person. I'll give you a second. So I'd like to invite my tribe to stand. Each of you has had such a significant impact on my life. Gisagin, I love you. And to you, one of my biggest encouragers, will you do me the honor of me?
practice. Not at all. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. We spend so much time in all of the classes talking about what we need to do and how we need to grow into becoming the best version of ourselves. That's a phrase that I really started to love after I came to Cottey, and Denise Hedges introduced me to the idea of really working towards the best version of ourselves. We're all on that journey. We're all getting better bit by bit. We've all made mistakes. We've all hopefully learned from those mistakes and gotten one step closer to that person we're meant to be. Thank you all for being part of this evening where our students are a little bit closer to that person they're meant to be. Have a great night.